Um, you say that the only thing to experience is knowing. All there is to experience is knowing. But you also say at various times, and you did this morning, that awareness is only aware of itself. Okay, so knowing is only aware of knowing, God is only aware of God, consciousness is only aware of consciousness, if I get that right. And I have trouble with that statement. I have trouble seeing the beauty and the truth of it, because my ordinary mind, I suppose it's my ordinary mind, my conditioning says that it seems selfish a little bit to me, to be so self-absorbed that you're only aware of yourself. Whereas, I was brought up to not just be concerned about myself, but to think of others too. So it seems to put a taint on awareness or on God, and it bothers me. I was wondering if you could clarify it for me and help me with
Yes.
that.
When we say we only put our attention on ourself, we're not referring to ourself a person, or ourself a body, or ourself a limited mind. We're talking about ourself pure knowing or pure consciousness, which is the reality of everyone and everything. So to call it selfish wouldn't be quite right, but it is precisely because the separate self has dropped out of the equation and its corresponding object or other has, as a result, also dropped out of the equation, that what is left is what's called the self with a capital S, or God's presence, or pure knowing, or pure consciousness. You see, the separate self cannot, by itself, love. Love is the absence of otherness. That's one way we could define love, the absence of otherness. So there's no question of loving an other. There's no question of a self loving another, because love is the collapse of the distinction between self and other. Love is the recognition of our shared being. So as a concession to the mind or the self that can't understand this, the teachings in their most elementary forms talks of loving other people. And there's nothing wrong with that. At a relative level, it's a beautiful practice. But really to truly love, we become non-existent as a person. The person vanishes. As Rumi said, in the existence of your love, speaking to the beloved, in the existence of your love, I become non-existent. This non-existence linked to you is better than anything I ever found in existence. So if we truly want to love, we have to cease being a person. The person is the veiling of love, the denial of love, the denial of the absence of otherness. That's why Rumi said, true lovers never really meet. You cannot remain a person and love at the same time. True lovers never really meet. They are in each other. They are one with each other all along. So it's the opposite of selfishness in the conventional sense of the term. Selfishness is to give exclusive attention or exclusive preference to oneself as a person or a separate entity. Love is the opposite of that. It is the dissolution, the disappearance of the person, and as a result the subsequent revelation of our shared being. the absence of separation or otherness.
Okay. I think it's just the words that are throwing me a little bit. Awareness being only aware of itself. I think it's just a silly little semantic thing. Can I think of it as awareness is aware of everything and everyone? Is that as a substitute to think of it that way?
Yes, you could. When you have a dream at night, you dream the world, the dreamed world within your own mind, and then you enter into your own dream and view the dream from the perspective of the dreamed character. And everything you see, you the person in the dream, everything you see is in fact the inside of your own mind, the dreamer's mind. So it's like that. God, can I use the term God? You're a devotee.
So I'm very comfortable with the word God.
Okay, let's use the word God because it connects with the heart more than awareness or consciousness. So each of us are like dreamed characters in God's dream. And each of our minds are the agency through which God, the only dreamer, sees the inside of its own mind as the world. So all God ever knows is God. Imagine if God could know something other than God. For God to know something other than God would have to exist. And if something other than God existed, then God would not be God. Because God is omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. If God is not everything, then he must be finite. And if he is finite, he must be temporary. And if he is temporary, he must come and go. And what he comes and goes in would be greater than him. Therefore, God would not be God. So God, if God is anything, he must be everything. So it is not possible for God to know someone or something. It's not possible for something to exist, to coexist with God. It's not possible for something to have its own being. That the being of all seeming things is borrowed from God's being, the only being there is. So there's no question of God knowing anyone or anything other than itself.
Okay, I believe I got that. That sounds good to me. Thank you, Rupert. I got that.
And that means also that God cannot be known by anyone other than himself. He cannot be known by a finite mind, because there is no finite mind apart from God's mind. Each of our finite minds is just a temporary contraction or a temporary limitation of the only mind there is, God's infinite mind. So there's no question of God being known by another mind, because there is no other mind, there is no other entity apart from God's being that could either know or not know God. It's this beautiful passage in that Balayani, the Sufi poet and mystic, wrote. He said, no one sees him except himself. No one reaches him except himself. No one knows him except himself. He knows himself through himself, and he reaches himself by means of himself alone. No one other than he knows him. No prophet, no perfect saint, no non-dual teacher knows him. His prophet is he. His messenger is he. His message is he. And his word is he. He sent himself from himself, through himself, to himself. There is no intermediary or means other than him. There is no difference or distinction between the sender, that which is sent, and the one to whom it is sent. The very existence of the prophetic word or the non-dual teaching is his existence, for there is no existence to any other who could pass away or be named or have a name.